Ben je live dan?
Ja, ik ben nu aan het live komen. Het enige wat we even moeten checken. Er zit een beetje vertraging in. En ik heb nu mijn oortjes in.
Ja, heb jij een YouTube-link al?
Ik heb de YouTube-link niet. Maar ik heb Slack uitstaan. Dus misschien dat jij hem even voor me kan checken via YouTube.
Oh ja, dat is wel heel lastig. Want ik heb nog een andere laptop over deze keer. Dat lijkt me anders.
Misschien dat Peter hem dan even kan checken op YouTube. Of Tim.
Ja, kan je ook zeggen. Hey, die witte bank is nu weg.
Ja, die witte bank is weg.
Ja, ik zie alleen de chat. Ik moet er even uitzetten.
Een chat?
Ja, die chat staat aan. Ga ik uitzetten. Ik hoor jou nu wel goed.
Ja?
Ja, ook daar.
Oké, dus als ik hem nu... Ik ga je even op mijn mobiel ga ik even muten. Dan kan je even die presentatie checken. Ja? Dan ga ik er even doorheen klikken.
Ja.
Oké, dus ik ben nu de oortjes aan het testen. En als ik dan nu naar de volgende slide klik, dan staan hier in principe 4 stages in Corona Times. En dan klik ik nu nog even door. Dan gaat het over de Telegraaf, over de Dutch. En hier staan 3 pillars, dat is ook nog heel mooi. Komt hij goed binnen, Turksma?
Ja, nee, ik hoor zo die of zo. Dus net op die... En anders ook. Met dat speelt.
Ja, dat klopt, omdat je mobiel aanstaat.
Nou, laat ik maar even.
Oké. Dan proberen we het nog een keer, nu met die 3 pillars. En dan klik ik nu weer door. En dan economics, het ziet er allemaal fancy uit. Het is prachtig. Gaan we Centraal Planbureau. Dus ook helemaal mooi. Er zijn er Nederlandse plaatjes. Oortjes dus wel in.
Ja, maar vooral ook de verbinding.
Ja?
De verbinding is super stabiel. Hè. Zodra je klikt, is het een half seconde later, is die er al.
Oh, want jij hoort of zo wanneer ik klik.
Ja.
Ja, dat is top.
Ah, niet een halve seconde later. Nu wat langer, maar dat is net wel.
Ik heb wel weer die gekke balk eronder nu.
Ja, dat zie ik ook. Maar op zich is het wel precies wel gewoon gedaan.
Ja, is dat niet lelijk?
Ja, ik ben er nog mee van aan.
Oké, ik ga de stream even stoppen, oké?
Nee, je hoeft stream niet te stoppen, voor mij betreft. Ik heb nu het geluid van mensen.
Oké. Nou, dan lijkt alles goed te gaan. Dus oortjes wel in. Is dat beter voor het geluid?
Ja, dat lijkt goed. Jij gaat weer naast me zitten?
Ja.
Ja.
Kan je mij even mailen waar die vragen binnenkomen?
Op welk mailadres?
Ja, of het document waarin die vragen verzameld kunnen worden, of hoe ik die vragen kan zien. Want ik ga die vragen verzamelen.
Oh, die komen volgens mij op content binnen. Daar zit jij ook in, toch?
Volgens mij zit ik daar niet in.
Moet ik jou daarin toevoegen? Is dat handig?
Ja, als dat kan.
En moet ik even een documentje maken waar je die in onder elkaar kan zetten?
Dat zou ook top zijn. Ik kan ook gewoon een Word pakken hoor. Maar...
Ja, alleen de vorige keer hoe je al goed dat deed, vond ik echt wel handig.
Oké.
Dus dan het beste maak ik gewoon een filter aan. Met geschikt, niet geschikt, ja, nee. En dan zet je er gewoon achter, ja. En aan het eind zet je het filter aan. En dan staan alle vragen onder elkaar die belangrijk zijn.
Ja, klinkt goed.
Ik maak hem wel aan voor je.
Oké. Dan spreek ik je straks weer. Yo.
Oké, later.
Oh, trouwens, Turksma.
Ja.
Kan ik die stream stoppen of moet ik die aan laten staan?
Nee, in principe zou je hem kunnen stoppen.
Kan je hem aanzetten?
Slide naar die zwarte. Naar die 2 zwarte, daar zit ook een video.
Oké. Dan wachten we even tot die bij jou binnenkomt. En dan...
Ja, dan zou hij ook direct live binnenkomen. Maar...
Ja, dat is in principe prima.
Nou, als je oortjes hebt, ben ik dat niet zeker inderdaad.
Nee, daarom wil ik het even checken of dat we even de microfoon van de oortjes bij de boxen moeten houden. Trouwens.
Heb je hem net gestart? Want dat gebeurt niet.
Ik heb hem nu gestart.
Ja, hij is nu wel weer.
Ja, want hij heeft natuurlijk, als hij die oortjes in zijn, dan gaat hij muziek niet over de boxen doen. Oké, komt hij nu binnen bij jou?
Ik hoor jou nu. Dus als je de video zo aan hebt,
Kan je jezelf muten dan?
ja, doe ik.
Oké. Dan moet ik even hierin. Nou, dan zijn we aan het praten en dan klikken we nu door naar de volgende. En dan start nu de video. Nu hoor ik wel in mijn oortjes de muziek. Maar ik denk dat jij niets hoort, of wel? Ik weet niet of je nu al wat zegt, maar...
Nee, ik hoor niks wat.
Nee? Oké. En als we dan gedurende dit de oortjes eruit halen, dan moeten we daar scherp op zijn. Die dan nu wel. Yo, hoor jij nog steeds niet? Je hoort helemaal niks. Maar ook niet op het moment dat je...
Je wilt een test op, hè?
Wat zei je?
Dit had jij getest, toch? Dat deze geluid gewoon in de stream kwam.
Ja, alleen toen had ik het zonder oortjes. Dus alleen volgens mij komt nu ook geen geluid meer binnen via die stream, of wel?
Jawel, ik heb dat even zo gezegd. Ja, alleen toen had ik het zonder oortjes.
Ja, precies. Maar het is dan wel gek dat als je wel mijn stem hoort via de audio, dat je niet die muziek hoort via de audio. Want dat zou je in principe ook gewoon moeten streamen dan.
Ja, alleen dat was Edwin nog hetzelfde probleem om voor elkaar te krijgen via Engels. Dat leek geblokkeerd, alleen als het een test was bij jou en jij had het wel voor elkaar.
Nou ja.
Maar Jeroen had het toch getest afgelopen donderdag? En toen werkte dat toch?
Ik heb het niet getest, was het?
Ja, bij mij kwam die wel binnen. Dan hoort dit allemaal niet. En als ik er nu overheen praat dan.
Maar als het dan de stream starten.
Ik snap niet wat je...
Ik denk dat hij dus anders heeft opgepakt aan het begin.
Ik snap niet wat je bedoelt, sorry.
Ja, of je stopt dus ga je gewoon even naar dat OBS.
Ja, ik heb hem nu gestopt en ik ga hem nu weer starten. Dus in principe zou hij het nu moeten doen. Want als ik er overheen praat, dan hoor je wel mijn stem. Dus dat is... Je ziet de video wel, toch?
Ja, ik zie de video.
Maar je hoort geen geluid. Je hoort ook niet wat ik er overheen zeg.
Nee, ik hoor ook wat je er overheen zegt. Je hoort ook niet wat ik er overheen zeg. Dat hoorde je ook weer.
Dat hoorde ik ook, maar ik heb nu de video gestopt. Je hoorde net wel wat ik zei, maar je hoort niet het geluid van de video binnenkomen. dat is super gek.
Dat is heel gek, ja. Dat is wat ik ook had bij. Ja.
Hoe kan het dat hij dat eruit filtert dan?
Stel dat we die video laten
Als hij
draaien.
dat eerder wel heeft, dan zou hij dat nu ook moeten kunnen.
Ja, maar goed, we krijgen het nu niet voor elkaar.
Stel dat we de tweede laptop laten draaien, gelijk afspelen.
Tim kan je wel even bellen, Bas, dan kan hij even meekijken.
Oké.
Oké, hij komt belt je nu.
Jo.
Stel dat hij alleen het geluid van buiten pakt. En we zouden deze twee gelijktijdig starten. Dus als ik die gewoon gelijk intik, dan zou ik dit geluid, à la het mondgeluid, wel worden opgenomen. Alleen dat luistert nou.
Ja, dat zouden we even moeten checken.
Ja.
Wel doet. Dus dat gaan we nu even. Kijk, staat hij hier klaar? Dus dat wil ik nu even met je testen. Ik heb de stream weer gestart. En dan.
Maar ga je dan tegelijk starten op die andere?
Ja. Dus dan staat hier het geluid aan. Ja. Dat als ik dan hier. Als ik hem dan nu start. Kun jij een WhatsApp geven als je die film ziet? Hoor je het geluid wel?
Ja, dat is wel. Dit komt vanavond, ik hoor hem ook niet, als mijn oortjes via de telefoon.
Ja, het komt via een tweede bron. Oké, ga ik nog één ding proberen. Oké. Ga ik nu de stream weer starten.
Ja.
Dan klik ik nu door.
Ja, de stream is nog niet starten. Zijn er nog wel? Nou ja, nu, ja.
Maakt het überhaupt uit?
When we first opened our doors.
Since 1926.
Since 1978.
For 60 years. For 75 years.
For over 80 years. In 90 years.
Over 100 years. Nationwide has been on your side.
Restaurants have always been there for you. Nissan has been with you through thick and thin. We will do what we've always done.
Take care of people.
We're people.
People.
People. People. People. Family.
Family.
Family. Family.
Family.
Family.
Family.
Family. Families. Families. Families.
Even now. Especially now.
Especially now. Right now.
Now more than ever.
More than ever.
Today, more than ever.
Today, more than ever.
At times like this. At times like these.
Certain difficult times.
Nee, daarin leggen we daar.
Nee.
Gewoon een spiekertje. Ergens een laptop.
Ja, ik heb volgens mij niet. Maar dat gaan we nu ook niet meer redden. We moeten gewoon even die laptop er dichtbij zetten.
Ja, dat kan. Maar geef maar 2 minuten.
Oké, je hoorde het op het laatst wel goed, toch?
Ja, zeker.
Oké, dan moeten we dat gewoon, moeten we die stelling
Ik denk
houden.
dat dat nu op 700 is.
Ja, denk ik ook. Oké dan, nou we gaan over 5 minuten live, toch?
keer niks meer zeggen of testen. Dus dan moet hij gewoon op de eerste slide staan en start streaming inderdaad.
Ja. Oké. Hey, en het geluid was prima, toch?
Ja, voor de rest was het net prima, zeker.
Oké. Dan gaan we dat op die manier doen.
Succes en Edwin, ik heb je net het documentje gedeeld voor de vragen.
Oké, dat is top. Ik zit alleen te denken, als we dan die tweede laptop nog nodig hebben, dan... Oké.
Ja, maar die tweede video is niet helemaal een eind, hè. Dus dan kun je die tweede laptop gewoon pakken, toch?
Ja, dat is waar. Die tweede, er zitten 3 video's en dan zitten nog de key takeouts. En dan komen er nog best wel wat slides.
Ja, daarom.
Dus dan kan ik gewoon die vragen even doornemen.
Ja.
Oké dan.
Ik let ondertussen ook lekker op het vragenformulier wat er binnenkomt.
Ja, top. Oké, ik zie...
Succes in ieder geval.
Thanks, komt helemaal goed. Jo. Nou, dan gaan we het gewoon zo doen. En ik klik wel met jou mee. En dan op het moment dat je daar bent, dan zetten we hier gewoon het geluid aan. En dan plaatsen we de laptop zo.
Ja, je kunt het taal laten staan bij de bewuste stap.
Ja, precies.
En daarna, want ik neem aan ergens moet de vragen binnenkomen, toch?
Ja. Dus ik ga gewoon eerst die vragen doornemen. En dan, op het moment dat jij bij die slide staat, dan zet ik hem klaar. Want dan kan jij met z'n tweeën doorklikken.
Want na, zeg maar, die video's, die
Dus
slides,
we moeten nog 4 minuten praten en dan moeten we stil zijn.
Oké.
Dus.
Hou de microfoon op 5 minuten op, oké.
Dan mag jij zo doen.
Ja.
Ook stil?
Ja. Ja, die staat weg. Die staat zo. Hier ga ik klikken.
Hier ga je klikken.
Oké. En dit is het beeld wat men zo meteen ziet als men inloggt.
Men ziet dit. Op het moment dat jij doorklikt.
Binnen het rode lijntje.
Binnen het rode lijntje.
Want dit alles eromheen niet uiteraard.
En op het moment dat jij doorklikt, dan klik je hier ook door.
Ja, precies.
Je presenteert gewoon vanuit deze.
Ja, oké.
Kijk, ga even plassen.
Het klopt dat hier de speaker uitstaat nu.
Hier staat de uitvoer, dus het geluid wat eruit gaat. Dat klopt. Dus
En daar is hij ook uit, maar dat is niet de bedoeling.
Nee, maar daar zet ik hem straks aan.
Oké.
Op het moment dat hij live gaat.
Oké.
Ja.
kan een training uit. Ik weet niet of je dat hoort, die microfoon is best wel. Dat kan.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for your interest in today's webinar. I'm Edwin Beyer, member of the MeMo² team with a focus on consulting. Before I start, just a practical remark. At the end of my presentation, I will take some time to answer your questions. You can post these questions by using the button at the right top corner. If you are following this webinar in full screen mode, you first need to leave full screen in order to make use of the button. Then you can return into full screen mode again. So let's start. Today I will give you some guidance in the overflow of information around the subject of brand marketing communication during and after the corona crisis and the COVID-19 infection. How can you keep your brand resilient? And how can you safeguard or grow your position in times of crisis? What we've done is gathering advices, opinions, and research results from an array of institutions. MeMo², being a data-driven research and consulting agency, is of course one of these sources, but also companies like Kantar, SimilarWeb, Marketing Week, McKinsey, GfK, Adformatie, Ipsos, and others are used. The essence of today is, how can we help and guide you through these challenging times and, not to forget, what's next? What stages should we take into account when it comes to brand marketing communication? And we will also take the Chinese situation into account, since they already experienced the corona crisis for 4 months and just released the restrictions. So how do we compare to China? Let's start with some basic facts. What happened when? The Dutch intelligent lockdown started in week 11. On March 12, the Dutch were urged to work from home, while a couple of days before some hygienic measures were announced. The massive hoarding began. How does this time look like for marketeers and marketing communications professionals? In stage 1, you could use the words panic, budget cuts, adjustments and organization on people. How do we safeguard the company continuity and those kinds of questions? In stage 2, there was a time of acceptance of the facts. And there was time to think and rethink the situation, and most importantly, the near future, and settle down in a new working mode from home. In stage 3, doing business in the 1.5-meter society while slowly opening up again. And in stage 4, we will be coping with a period of recession and rebuilding the economics and hopefully not building your brand again. The objective is that your brand stands strong and will grow back to a stronger normal. Immediately in stage 1, going through in stage 2, opinions came across that everything will change after the corona crisis. This news heading is just one of the examples. But is this really true? Is this to be expected? The normal has, from a professional brand standpoint, 3 angles. It's about economics, brand position, and brand strength. Economics, it's about the financials. This will hurt all parts of our economy. On brand position, it's what happens to your market position and what can we learn from other and earlier recessions. And brand strength is about people and how and if people change in situations like this related to your brand. But let's start with the economics. 4 scenarios are calculated by the CPB, the Centraal Planbureau, the official advisory board for the Dutch government, and their advice was resulting in a prediction of an economic downfall varying from a recession in 2020 with a recovery in 21 to a situation that the corona crisis leads to a recession for 1.5 years with the earliest recovery in 2022. Currently, we are still in the first scenario and not in an official recession yet. Officially, a recession is in place when in 2 consecutive quarters the GDP, being our gross domestic product, shrinks. But still, we need to prepare for a recession to come. Rabo Research expects that due to Corona 2020 will show shrinkage in GDP in the Eurozone as such, combined with a larger year-on-year growth in 2021. The drop in 2020 is huge compared to the great financial crisis in 2007 and 8. But the recovery is even stronger. Several sources give comparable trends. The estimated figures differ, however. The reason for this, and now we are looking at the 4 larger Eurozone markets, Germany, France, Italy and Spain, is a steep contraction to be expected in 2020, while an ever stronger return in 2021. Italy seems to recover slower, but ultimately they are keeping the overall growth going long term. You could say back on the pre-corona track of GDP growth. It's very important to keep this in mind thinking of your brand, especially when we discuss the second element of the brand normal. Knowing that we need to prepare our thinking around recession period, what does this mean for your brand market position? Talking about the first stage of the crisis, I've used the word panic. There was a level of panic amongst all the Dutch, including marketeers. Not all brands reacted out of panic, but a lot of campaigns were cancelled and taken off air. A clear reaction that at least gave marketeers the time to think of the right actions to be taken. As a result of that, the first brands or companies took the initiative to give something back to society. The fact that there was a level of panic, consumers didn't think that brands should stop advertising. Brands don't only play a role in the lives of consumers, they are important anchor points in their lives. Knowing that we are entering into a recession, whether short or longer term, we can learn a lot from the lessons from earlier recessions when it comes to brand development and strategies. Several scientific and marketing studies proved that cutting budgets during recessions will affect brands' market position in a negative way. So try to keep your investment intact or even grow them. We will share some of those studies with you from several moments in history. The brand Z analysis from Kantar proved that if you've invested in the strong brands, your investment would have outgrown the other companies and brands. And not only outgrew, but also they will react more softened to a period of economic decline. Let's take a closer look. Specifically, looking at the outbreak period of the great financial crisis in 2007, you see that the stronger brands show a less steep decline compared to the Standard & Poor's 500 brands. So when the market grew again, they already started at a higher level, resulting in a better growth result. But there are more examples, just another few. During the crisis of 74 and 75, there were different approaches by different companies. Some companies continued their marketing activities in full. Some just cut all budgets for 2 consecutive years. And some did that only one of the 2 years, in 74 or in 75. The revenue result of companies who kept their investment intact outgrew the ones that didn't with plus 50%. In 1990 and 1991, the same kind of difference appears. As said, just a couple of examples, but the message is clear. Keep investing in your brands. 2 things are important with this. A. In a recession, markets go down and there will always be brands who will cut budgets. The brand that keep investing will end up with a higher share of voice. Without growing your investment, you will see the result in a higher relative spend, your share of voice. The other element, point B, is the second important thing, of course, and that is what and how do you support your brands. We will share some insights with you on this later on. Because for now, I want to share with you the third pillar on what influences change and especially the questions of change in people's behaviors and attitudes. But more importantly, people's values and needs. Ultimately, this relates into the question, will demand really change? It will never be the same is something we often heard and read. Despite the fact that I'm an optimist, and I don't think that people will fundamentally change, with the emphasis on fundamentally, you don't need to take my view for granted. That's why we've consulted one of the leading Dutch professors in the field of social and psychological behavior, Mr. Paul van Lange, connected to the Free University in Amsterdam and the Faculty of Behavior and Movement Science and head of the Department of Social and Organizational Psychology. Through my work as member of the Dutch Sire Foundation, we consult academic scientists very often in the area of influencing human behavior through creativity and communication. The highly successful Do's Lief campaign, which was recently followed by the Das Lief campaign, is a result of our cooperation with Mr. Paul van Lange. He is very clear in what change to expect. Fundamentally, people will not change when it comes to their core values and needs. They will strive for getting back in the normal ways of life as they know it and as they want it. People will still enjoy life as it was. They will be getting back to their holidays, their entertainment needs, product use, brand choices, etc. But first, what will change from scientific point of view? In a minute, I will share with you how this relates to China currently and if there are first signs on the truth behind this. The first thing, part of the people will experience a lasting change that impacts their lives. Think of job loss, growing number of divorces due to the new tensions caused by the staying at home. People that lost their loved ones due to the COVID-19 infection, but also the positive fact that more elderly people learned to make use of digital media in order to stay connected. That will stay. We as people learned new things. Also, that working from home is doable. Maybe not permanently, but this experience will last. The second more important element that will change is the impact and experience of solidarity and interdependency. These factors are much more part of our lives currently, and we are learning from it. This will feed our collective memory. There is a time before and a time after Corona. And finally, that collective memory will enlarge the relevance of some emotions in our lives. Nostalgia is such an emotion that will be richer, more prominent than before. These types of emotions are relevant for marketeers and brands to think of in future strategies. But as promised, how does this relate to China? Ipsos China shared learnings on April 22nd last week. The lockdown of Wuhan ended on April 8th. China is now experiencing a recovery period. People are free to move around, governmental support has ended, everybody is going back to normal. But the normal currently is still only at an estimated level of around 40%, since China is still insecure, since the rest of the world is still under corona threat. They are much more internationally oriented than at the time of the earlier crisis of SARS in 2002 and 2003. Therefore, they are much more cautious in order to prevent a second wave. 98% is still concerned, mainly for a second outbreak. Therefore, they, for sure, will not travel internationally and stick to domestic travel in 2020. So bad news for our KLM in 2020. This uncertainty also translates into a very slow recovery of elements of their normal life. Especially restaurants and bars are experiencing this heavily. They survived through governmental support, but that has stopped because all restrictions have ended. Everything is open again, but the Chinese are not immediately returning back to their eating out habits. They are still enjoying small activities at home. They are still careful. So now restaurants are having their difficult times. Fear for bankruptcy is now more topical than at the time of the crisis. In China, people switched more between brands in the beginning of the corona crisis, simply due to scarcity. They couldn't find their brands of choice enough. Now that everything is changing to the new normal again, they go back to their original familiar brands, mostly stronger brands. Due to the lockdown, home interest has grown, something we also see in the Netherlands. Insurance companies in China grow double digit, especially home insurance. Some things did change in China. For instance, a stronger growth on digital media and e-commerce platforms. The Chinese delivery, cashless payment, and logistic services are at a different level than in the Netherlands. But this is a global situation we are already seeing around us. More on this issue later on. Furthermore, the luxury alcoholic category is hit hard and will continue this probably for a longer period of time. This is caused by the fact that the Chinese drink only at social out-of-home occasions. Caution is still their credo on going out socializing. That's probably one of the reasons why the sales of French wine export dropped seriously, and brands in the luxury alcohol consumption should think already of compensating measures in other areas and or markets. It's worthwhile analyzing opportunities. Another strange example, mentioned by Derek Sauer in Russia, in Moscow, for instance, the vodka sales grew with plus 60%. Important to say here as well, the growth in digital experience makes a focus on digital transformation even bigger for brands. Finally, the fear of the downfall in their own income due to payment cuts, career slowdown, etc., leads to postponing investment of durables like cars. But growth is already foreseen in several areas. Asset insurance, but also hygiene products, personal care, etc. Digital initiatives are expected to stay after the crisis, like digital home fitness or digital home education, but also alternatives for larger music events. Local bars and restaurants will keep organizing cloud-based digital events, live recordings of artists in their restaurants and bars to experience in home. You can compare this to the Live 8 initiative that Honig developed in the Dutch market, but I'll come to that in a minute. Last words on China. China expects a slow recovery because of holding back due to the international threat of a second corona wave. Some new consumer experiences that started during corona will stay and change elements of behavior. But now back to the Dutch market again. I already mentioned the Honig initiative called Live 8 with double E. On March 26, Honig initiated, together with the Voedselbank, a live eat event at 6 p.m. to eat together at home and enjoy digitally a series of Dutch artists which were performing live from their homes, making this a musical home dinner. The aim was to get donations from the Voedselbank, the Dutch version of the CARE Foundation, and it worked, not only for the Voedselbank, but also for the public and Honig. This is an example of a good initiative of a brand being active, close to its existing role and values in a highly relevant and sympathetic way. Many advertisers try to find a way to be active during the corona crisis, making use of the difficult times. It's not always given to every brand to do this the right way. I want to show you a video from the US with a compilation of corona-related brand films. Earlier on, I talked to you about share of voice. Money alone doesn't make the difference. Communication as such should stand out and be logically derived from your own brand values. But being different and standing out is difficult.
When we first opened our doors,
Since 1926.
since 1978, for 60 years,
For 75 years.
for over 80 years, in 90 years,
Over 100 years. Nationwide has been on your side.
restaurants have always been there for you. Nissan has been with you through thick and thin. We will do what we've always done.
Take care of people.
We're people.
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 People and family.
Family.
Family. Family.
Family.
Family.
Family.
Family. Families are families. Families.
Even now. Especially now.
Especially now. Right now.
Now more than ever.
More than ever.
Today, more than ever.
Today, more than ever.
At times like this.
At times like these, during these difficult times,
In these troubled times.
Challenging times.
Trying times.
In these times of uncertainty.
during this time of great uncertainty,
During these uncertain times.
During these uncertain times.
in uncertain times,
In uncertain times. Uncertain times.
unprecedented times,
Unprecedented times.
unprecedented times.
This unprecedented moment in our history.
Time of social distancing.
While things have slowed down, as we turn more inside, while the doors may be closed,
While the distance between us has gotten bigger.
The more we stay apart,
We still find ways to stay close, even when we're apart.
even if we can't stand closer than 6 feet,
We can all stay connected to work, school, and most importantly, to each other.
there's still ways to touch each other.
All without leaving the comfort and safety of your home. Without leaving the safety of your home.
From home.
home, your home,
At home.
Home. Home. Home. Home.
home. That's the key. Buick and GMC are here to help. Con Edison is here to help.
Here to help.
Our teams are here.
We are here. We're here. We're here.
Here for you.
Here for you.
We're here for you.
We're here for you. We are here for you. We're here for you.
We are here for you. We'll be here for you.
Runnings is here for you.
We're still here for you.
We're with you. We're part of your community.
So you can trust us.
You can count on us.
And we'll get through this. Together.
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 Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together. Together.
We're together.
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 MasterCard.
Sometimes you don't need to state explicitly that you are sending a message because of the coronavirus. But when you know what your audience is keeping awake, you can be relevant. Heineken was one of those examples in the compilation video. Although they are using a couple of those generic corona-related signals, I would call them, they are highly recognizable Heineken, relevant for their audience and close to the role of the brand. They are using existing memory structures.
Handshakes, fist bumps, the third eyes, the team breaks down, greetings, thumb wrestling, chick pinching, high kisses, bite kisses, air kisses, French kisses, back slaps, the love taps, the happy claps, the hugging. The piggybacks, the holding, the bear hugs, the strolling, the squeezing, the hand in hand, the eye to eye, holding closely, the hugging goodbye. With a million ways of being together, now it's staying apart that brings us closer than ever.
Hello, what's up? Hey. Hello. Right. Good to see you.
Another great example of a local advertiser is bol.com, which, as soon as it was known that schools were closed and kids were kept in home, they started the initiative Thuisblijvertjes. For the non-Dutch speaking listening in, Thuisblijvertjes is the Dutch word for small kids that stayed at home. Bol.com introduced a series of books that were read by well-known vloggers or celebrities, and that could be watched by paying only €1. As an example, this is Monique Smit, a Dutch singer in a teaser video through social media. Sorry for the lack of subtitles.
Hey, ik ben Monique Smit en voor alle thuisblijvers zing en lees ik voor op bol.com. De hele week uit 2 kleine kleutertjes. Kom je ook? Swipe up voor alle video's.
Very sympathetic service that was highly relevant during this corona time. But why is this a good example? It's not literally connected to corona, but is making use of something that is highly relevant during that time and is still close to what bol.com stands for. And not to forget, online shopping is in the rise. Overall, you could say, based on numerous campaign and cross-media trackers MeMo² conducted and confirmed by other institutions, that if advertising was effective before the corona crisis, they are still effective, except for the obvious example, like a last-minute ticket promotion for an Easter holiday a couple of weeks ago. Of course, that wasn't relevant. The second one, corona-related and relevant messages attract more attention, but only temporary. And these specific messages are not delivering more impact per se. If the use of existing brand values, etc., are more to the background than the corona-related message. In fact, these types of messages need to build up from zero instead of adding to the existing brand perception. If these existing brand values are used in the right context, then the impact can benefit. Heineken, bol.com are examples of this. They are simply doing what they always did, but now in a topical setting. Talking about messages, media usage is clearly changing. Several market sources report on this. MeMo² registers the same effect. Some outcomes. TV, radio, and campaign reach is substantially higher in week 14 when it's compared to the average over the weeks before the intelligent lockdown in week 11. For TV, this growth is at a level of plus 56%. Radio is also growing towards a comparable level, and what is clearly new with it, when it's concerns TV viewing is the fact that millennials are intensifying their TV viewing behavior. In week 14, the weekly reach of TV amongst millennials is registered at 69%, while the weekly reach in week 10, 4 weeks earlier, was only 43%, a growth of plus 60%. And not only AV media are delivering higher reach. We've all been using digital media more intense than before the corona. On one hand, this is caused by the need for immediate information on corona-related issues, but also clearly because of the need to connect with friends and family. And don't forget the rise of e-commerce. Online shopping is growing in specific areas. This is something what we measure, but this is applicable everywhere in the world. We just got this confirmation from China. Interesting to see is that social drinking is a growing reason for people for being online active. Maybe already something that the earlier mentioned luxury alcoholic brands can play a new role in, now and in the future. Working out is dropping while the need to socialize wins. The role of digital is really affected by the time we are living in right now. This experience should inspire marketeers to accelerate on digitization of and around brands. People are now forced to step up in their digital way of life, which stimulates the digital relevance for brands. I will be coming to a close on this third MeMo² webinar in 2020 by sharing just a couple of insights. MeMo² is gathering insights for clients globally, and within this global scope, we are able to follow the global developments around corona effects. What is very clear is that the level on which people are worrying around the coronavirus differs a lot per country. In Portugal, the score is almost at 100%, while in Austria only 58% of the population is worrying, while Tyrol was one of the greater sources in Europe of the COVID-19 outbreak. Austria is also already slowly opening up again. In Belgium, the influence of the border countries on the level in which people worry is creating a gap between the north and the south of the country. In the south, Wallonia, the level is at 79%, while in the north, Flanders, it's 71%. A substantial difference. Eye-catching is, of course, the serious score of 85% in New York, which makes this area around the highest in the world. In general, we are seeing higher scores among women in all countries and less worry among younger people compared to the elderly. No surprise probably, but still good to know, especially when you are managing typical gender or age-related brands. A Kantar study shows that larger investments in the UK amongst consumers are delayed, the yellow bars. Equal to what we saw in China and also in the Netherlands, the insurance category seems to suffer the least within those category brands. But overall, a large proportion of investment plans are still alive. Again, a reason to stay connected to your audience. Doing grocery shopping in the supermarket is not what it was before. Efficiency and social distance is key. The Candid Group shared a broad data set on corona-related developments and also on visiting supermarkets. Roughly 22% is changed to another supermarket. The larger chains are benefiting most, which seems to be based on the one-stop shop principle. MeMo² research has shown that preference for the people's original supermarket is still there. What also came across is that people want to finish shopping as fast as possible and are preparing better than before. The shopping list is used more often. That means that more choices are made at home when people are preparing the shopping list. This is important to know for fast-moving consumer goods, that brand preference still should be built in order to be chosen before entering the supermarket. Finally, the good thing of the corona crisis is that the earth gets time to breathe some fresh air again. We're living in cleaner air. This brings me to the close of this webinar. A short wrap-up. Most importantly, keep your brand strong in the minds of people. Don't stop supporting your brand. It's proven to be very important to keep investing in your brand. The way how is dependent on your individual brand development. So keep a close eye on your brand developments and stay in brand control. If you need to change your communication or develop new, be relevant in Corona times with your existing brand values, imagery, associations as a constant base. But be reassured, effective communication from before the crisis can still be as effective. I can say that we at MeMo² are already experiencing a growing need for pre-testing just because brands want to do things right. Follow your audience and understand what new insights arise in order to respond and stay close with your brand values. And finally, make use of the changing media usage and be flexible, especially step up in the way you are using digital channels. All consumers in all ages are going through a strong learning curve during these Corona times. If an opportunity arises, react fast. So be as agile as possible, but consistent in the way you use your existing brand memory structures. Speed up your digital transformation process. Thank you for watching. I would say stay healthy and stay safe, but let's go to the list if there are any questions. I see one question on my remark on share of voice. Why is this relevant? There was one guy, John Philip Jones, in the 1990s, last century. He discovered a clear relationship between share of voice and share of market. So when your share of voice, the level of spend compared to the competition, is growing, and in this period of time, of course, when people stop their campaigns, brands stop their campaigns, your share of voice when you stay on will be higher, relatively seen. You could grow your market share because of the fact you are investing more than the others. That's something that is proven. Of course, this differs per category, and this differs per specific subject. But there is a clear relationship between share of voice and share of market. So doing the same can grow your brand already because your share of voice will go up. Another question. There is a question, do we need to make a different TVC or online video commercial per market, since Corona concerns differ per market, and do you offer pre-tests cross-market? As I mentioned, it's important to follow your audience, to understand what's going on for your audience. When we looked at the level of worrying amongst the Portuguese is almost double the level of worry, which is in Austria relevant. So there can be a difference. So it could be relevant to check per market what's the best way to communicate during these times and what's happening amongst your audience. And there was, I think, also part of that question was, should we pre-test per market? And the answer, of course, is yes. Not that we are a company who is delivering pre-testing, but it is important because if you want to be close to your audience, to be relevant at max. Let me see if there are questions. Someone is asking that in China the recovery is slow, while Rabo research says that the recovery in the Eurozone will be very, very fast. How does this compare? Yeah, maybe three things to mention again on China. China didn't experience a real national or international crisis yet. They had their SARS crisis in 2002 and 2003, but it's not at the same scale as they are having the Corona crisis now. And in the past 10 to 20 years, China is much more moving around the world. Their orientation is much more international. And that's why the Chinese are much more worried than most of the Western European or even Western world people are worried. As mentioned, China is 98%. It's at the Portuguese level. And since the international world is still under threat of corona, they are afraid, because of this international development, that they will hit a second wave when they go abroad and when they import the coronavirus. So that's why there is a slow recovery now in China. But in Europe, we want to go back to normal like yesterday. You've seen that even in the US there are protest sessions for stopping the lockdown, because everybody wants to go back in their normal lives. The thrive here in the Eurozone is much stronger than amongst the Chinese to go back. Let me see. There is a question on this presentation, if we could share this with you, and of course, we will send you by email. Everybody who is watching this will get an email on a link of this presentation on YouTube. So yes, you can get everything behind this story, and you can read that. And yeah, and I think it's important to say that, of course, because the list of questions is large, we will come back to all your individual questions. You can email them, of course, to info@memo2.nl, but we will answer the questions all individually. Maybe something that I got inspired on one of those questions, because this is a special period in time, and we want to learn from this period. And I would suggest to the EFI organization to create a kind of award next year on which brands came out the coronavirus situation the strongest as possible, and how did it. Not because of delivering an award to a strong brand, but gathering knowledge, gathering experience of success cases of what works and what doesn't work. So that's something that could be an idea for the EFI organization to take this with them when they organize the next EFI Awards in 2021. I think I'm going to finalize this presentation. Hope you've inspired, if you've been inspired and learned something. And if you want to talk after this story, and give us a call, give us a mail, and we'll get in touch with you. So again, stay safe, stay healthy, and be strong, and keep your brands in control. Thank you very much, and talk to you later.